Yo, what up, what up, what up? It's your boy Rush, holding it down with the Labudo Network. Right now, promoting my side hustle, Rush Enterprise. If you're in the state of New Jersey, you need armed guards or unarmed guards, call up my business line and I line it up. The bigger the contract, the more money we make together. Today, I got a special guest. He go by the name of Patric Carr. Um, Patrick, man, let the people know who you are. Give them the MO about yourself, and let them know what you came here for. Talk to them.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for having me on. And I own a company called Blue Collar Media Group, and we're based down in Florida. We go across the country and work with blue collar businesses, people who build things with their hands. And then, much like yourself, man, always having a side hustle, I got involved in the podcasting world where I do something called the Patric Carr Show and talk about current events and things that are going on around the country and try to give my 2 cents in on it because I think that traditional media tends to do a pretty terrible job of giving an honest opinion. So I do my best to try to bring that to our small audience and do what we can with that.
Man, man, thank you so much for coming. I'm so sorry for the lagging.
That's
StreamYard,
fine.
have me struggling streaming at times, man. My first question for you, yeah, my first question for you would be, how'd you come up with the concept of your podcast, implementing like the whole blue collar type structure within your
Mhm.
podcast, and like what inspired you? What inspired you to come up with the concept of that for your podcast?
I think one of the most underrepresented groups of people in the country are those who build something with their hands: roofers, contractors, guys who lay cement, concrete, bricklayers. You're talking about restoration guys, remodeling, landscaping. I think there are a lot of people that are building podcasts towards AI, technology, or conspiracy theories, which is wonderful. I love all those things. But I really thought to myself, I said, what could I talk about that would be relatable to a guy who's sitting in his truck? He's 35 years old. He's working as an HVAC technician. What does that guy care about? And so with the show, what we tried to do is every day we try to piece together some things that we can talk about that if that guy's at lunchtime, he's going to find them to be interesting that he could talk to his buddies about. And if we can do that, then we've got a great show, I think.
Man, I think that's incredible, man. When it comes to blue collar workers, man, they don't have I don't know. This it's like people kind of like downplay workers, and blue collar workers, they're the backbone of this country, and when it comes to the dating scene, and with females and all that, they will look down upon a blue collar worker, your electrician, and etc. Even sometimes police officers, and I think they don't get the respect that they deserve within this country. Do you think we get looked down upon, and if so, give me your input on that.
Yeah. I think it used to be a lot worse than it is today. I think if you're anywhere between the ages of 30 and 50, you remember a time in the country where you had to go to a college. Everyone was telling you, go get a 4 year degree. You were in high school and they told you that stuff. I think there are a lot of people now like me who look back at that message and say, I never would have gone to college. I went to University of Florida. I got a couple degrees from there that I never use. And I think that's most people who go to college. They get some business degree that they have no idea they're going to use it for. And most of the time they spent trying to discover themselves in alcohol for 4 years. And they get out of it with a degree in basically both of those things. And so I think that for a long time, blue collar work was looked down on. I think now it's becoming to make a comeback because I think that people see there's value in a trade. And I think that also people think there's value in job security. And it's maybe some of the only places in America right now, plumbing, electrical, things like that, where there's a gap between AI taking your job next month, right? It's it doesn't feel like I'm about to be put out of work by Claude dot something. And I see that as being something that's valuable to a lot of people.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. When it comes to AI, yeah, they'll be taking over a lot of jobs, such as your receptionist, any marketing scheme, telemarketers. Like they got AI doing that. They even have like virtual assistants, AI that could answer your phone call for your business. So that's going to put a lot of people out of a job that work in that kind of field. But your plumbers, your electricians, your welders, AI is not gonna. I mean, it will soon, but
Yeah.
the first job that's gonna go is like your those jobs I named earlier. You know, and
Yep.
my next question for you is, man, like, do you think college is the biggest scam in America, man? And I want your honest opinion on that.
I don't know if it's the biggest scam. I mean, healthcare is probably up there too, but college is definitely, for what it is and what you get out of it now, is surely a scam. The messaging that universities have been able to generate around the importance of being on campus is nothing short of, I mean, I don't want to call it criminal, but it surely is not. You're not getting the value out of it that is you're perceived to get. Um, I tell people now in my own business that if you don't know, you can learn it on YouTube University. And that goes for just about anything. You can go to YouTube and learn about calculus. You can go to YouTube and learn about economics or whatever it is that you want to learn about. You can probably get a better education from YouTube than you can from a university. I think all that the university shows is that you have a desire and a willingness to sit through something and stick it out. Um, and when I'm looking for somebody in a position in my company, as long as they've shown me that, I don't care a darn bit about a degree. And going back to what you said a minute ago about AI, we did a story today about McDonald's new AI called Archie. And I'll tell you, all these AIs that have a real fun kind of, oh yeah, kind of name, I'd be scared of those. Um, and McDonald's is the latest one where their Archie program is going to be the one that takes your order at the drive-through. There'll no longer be somebody there taking an order to the drive-through McDonald's within the next 12 months. Um, and so they're calling it Archie to make it sound great, but that's just because Archie's going to put a lot of people out of work in the very near future.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that, man. Like, technology has evolved in such a rapid pace, and it's still growing. Um,
Yep.
you know, my next question for you would be, like, do you think, due to the lack of procreation, because the birth rate have plummeted significantly, like throughout the
Hmm.
years. So,
Oh, yeah.
they're predicting that there's going to be a shortage of youthful people. And because of that, I think they're going to use the AI robots to replace those people that's 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 not young no more, because it's going to be a whole plethora of old people. And old people can't put in the hard work labor, because their body is tapped out. I want to
Yep.
get your perspective on that. Do you think that's even possible in the near future,
I think it's even darker than that.
that AI robots
Um,
taking over?
so here's where I go with it first. All right. Cause I'll give you a little where I think it goes first. And cause you're right. Birth rates are plummeting, but I think the thing that is going to further that along quicker is going to be how readily available and real, um, I'll say, adult entertainment will be online. And what I think you're finding right now is between robots that I've seen developed and I've seen out in Las Vegas when they're doing the conventions, between the readiness that's available online of what looks to be real 3D interactive adult entertainment, let's put it that way, because I know we're trying to be friendly here for YouTube or anything. I think what you're seeing is that men do not have the same desire that they used to have. That they don't have the same desire to go out and hunt and kill, like that kind of thing that is innate within us. And because of that, I think that this is the one of the things that people are not exploring with birth rates. They talk about AI and all that, but what you also have is you have adult entertainment readily available right on your phone. And so there isn't that need to go find somebody to be out there with. And that's only going to continue to become more and more real. And I see that as being something that's the catalyst no one is talking about to declining birth rates and the increase in need for AI in our daily lives as we have a, like you said, we have a population that continues to increase in age with less people being born.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. Like when it comes to the social media platform, is definitely integrated into our social construct. Like part of our culture now, like all this online stuff, and like people that's online, 24/7. They lose their interpersonal skills to be able to read the room and read body language and sort. And yeah, man, I mean this totally killed everything. Even with the dating scene. The dating scene is totally different now. People can't really interact like they used to when we was coming up. And a lot of these females, they have an inflated ego. Some of them are kind of delusional, and that's just due to social media, man. Like you could take a good snapshot, you put it up there online, you get the the likes and the comments, and then your ego's boosted. You think you look like I don't know, Pamela Anderson or something like that. Like it's just
Yep.
crazy. I mean this. I mean, I even see it like like I don't know if you ever seen that movie Un- Unborn Identity, like where the AI took over everything, and it even was able to read your thoughts, and before you even thought about committing a crime, you was
Yep.
already arrested for that. And I see that
Yep.
within technology. Like it's definitely taking, it's definitely changing things, man. And it's not for the better. It's probably
You
for the higher ups to have more control within society. But I see
you
you wanted to interject. Go ahead. Give me a
no,
two-piece on that, man.
I think that you're on to something there. And I believe that one of the things about dating today is that you have, how do I put this? When women get online, there are a lot of options available to them. And it becomes very difficult for people to date individuals because when you're dating an individual, you also have to date their online personality. And if you're dating a halfway attractive woman, she's getting 100 DMs every single week from a guy who's promising her the world. And the availability of that has changed tremendously in the last 10 years. And so when you're a woman, I say women especially because men don't get this nearly as much. It doesn't matter how good looking or how your abs are. Woman posts a picture of herself in a bikini, automatically she's going to continue to get the DMs. And so I think this is probably a net negative about social media and AI and the ability to generate this stuff at scale because it makes it much more difficult for one person to focus on another when you're getting 100 other candidates blowing you up about all the promises and all the great things they're going to do for you, and you're in an argument with your guy down, your boyfriend who's a plumber who's not making enough money, and you want more out of life. Um, those things are very difficult, I think, for relationships today, and they're things that were not there 10 years ago, 20 years ago for people to contend with.
I totally agree with you on that, and this generation also adopted a transactional type
Oh, yeah.
relationship between the male and female. There's women. They, hey, if he can't give me a Birkin bag, it's not going to work out. Oh, he's a plumber, or his job is not exciting enough for me to date him. So like yeah, man, like social media has definitely changed everything, man, and it's unfortunate, but this is the future. I guess we would have to adapt and try to pan things out. It totally sucks for the younger generation coming up because they stuck with not the greatest you know quality of women nowadays, man. Like these women out here is kind of cold hearted, man. They're wolves in sheep clothing, man, and you got to be careful, man. I mean, you see the divorce rates. You see some of these ball players, man. They get through the ringer in the court system with family court. The child support and etc. Even when it comes to paternity fraud, man. Like it's up there, man. I think it's like
Yep.
35% or something like that. That's
Unbelievable.
a big chunk, man. And those are the only ones that's been used for a case study. Like what about the ones that don't speak up? And a lot of
Mhm.
times, man. Like if somebody has an illness, they go get their blood work. And they want to get it delivered from their son, and they find out 20 years later, that's not even his son. Like
Mm.
these things happen, man. And it's unfortunate, man. Like, do you think in America that paternity test will be a mandatory thing?
I think that if you're with a woman and you have to question that stuff, sure, I think you should be able to get a paternity test. If that's where your head is at, you think that, let's say both people have been dating other individuals. No man or woman should have to not know. All right. Like there should be an ability for them to know upon request. And I would have no problem with a state or federal law that if one party requests a paternity test, either one, that it's required before birth or required within the first, within 90 days of making the request. I don't think something like that is crazy or otherwise puts somebody out of pocket or anything. I think that should be reasonable for someone to request because nobody should have to take care of a child that is not their own if it's somebody else's responsibility. Um, and now, if you want to and you make that choice as an individual, as a stepfather or stepmother, then that's a beautiful thing to be there for that child. But I agree with you. There should be some level of protection for a man or a woman, and she wants to know because she's not sure either, to be able to look at that and to be able to find answers to those questions.
Man, good answer. Um, my next question for you is what advice would you give to a young man that wants to start a business like you? From the looks of things and watching your podcast and your social media, you look very successful. So, what are the what are the key points that a kid and leaving high school, going to whatever trade school or college or whatever? What advice would you give to that individual?
I would tell them that being an entrepreneur is going to be a lot more painful than what you think it's going to be. And what you see online from somebody who's making a couple million bucks on a simple transaction that you see, or they tell you it's just a 1 2 3 step program or something like that. It's not. It's going to take longer than you think, and it's going to be harder than you think it's going to be. So what I would tell someone is find something first that you genuinely enjoy doing. And by enjoy doing, I don't mean gives you happiness. Happiness is fleeting. It will be happiness as you go get a new car with the money that you made. You feel good driving down the road for a couple of days and then it's gone. That's happiness. You don't want to find something that way. You want to find something that gives you joy, which gives you purpose. When I get up and I get here at 5:30 in the morning every morning to do this, there's real purpose in it for me because Blue Collar Media Group means something. I talk to blue collar guys every day. I see the despair in their eyes when they've worked their butt off for 20 years and feel like they should be further along because they haven't had a partner. I see the pain that they have to go through. And so that motivates me here to try to do something right by them. And so there's joy, there's purpose in that for me. And if I let them down, it's purposeful. Like I feel like I've let myself down. And so if you're considering doing something, there's no problem between 17 and 25 or 20. It's been 10 years. Trying to find that thing that gives you purpose every day, and then know that it's going to be harder and it's going to take longer to make it at that thing than what you think it will. And that's okay, because every single day that you continue to be there, other people give up. And so every time that we run into something here and that I go, man, normally somebody would mail it in, that means we've made it a little bit further than the next guy. I look at it that way.
Man, I think that's some good advice, man. And one thing I noticed from some of the youth, it's not a lot, but I noticed that they don't have like a steadfast spirit. They tend to try to look for a shortcut. And the thing that they're trying to avoid, is the rat race. They don't want to get stuck in the matrix, and I understand that. But let the youth know how important it is to have a strong foundation and structure, so that way in the future you'll be able to relax, because you don't put in the hard work, in your early 20s, and now you're in your 40s, you're able to kind of like relax and do some traveling, and I don't know, find some zen somewhere else, like let the people know how important it is to have that kind of foundation, man.
Yeah. What I would say to people in their 20s, especially right now, is that you have to get okay. If you want to be something online, if you want to have millions of followers, or that's your goal, we have clients that we do that for. And I can tell you, it is much more mentally difficult than what you think it's going to be. And if you can take the pain, and I mean pain, that comes with millions of followers, then you can influence people in what I hope is a good way, and you can make money doing it. And then you can spend your 30s and 40s, or late 30s and 40s kind of, I don't know, it's not to say relaxing, but you can make sure that you've got an audience that allows you to get a message out and make money and do what you need to do. Um, but when you're cultivating that audience and you're getting thousands of messages, or you're getting thousands of comments from people every day, I'm telling you, it is harder on a person than what they give it credit for. Give the devil its due when it comes to online personas and building a business. If you're going to do it in the public eye, you're going to get a lot of public criticism. And one of the big mistakes that I see young entrepreneurs making is they take it to heart, and it's hard on them because they get criticized, or they get told they're doing it the wrong way, and then they give up because they're so scared of the judgment of other people. Um, and I would tell people, use that time to get a hardened skin, get calloused, because I promise you, as you build a business, you're going to get a lot of heat from different directions.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that, man. Like, having millions of followers, that's like you know that's a different level of. Some people will take it to heart and take it personal with some of those comments, man. Like, like I see other big content creators, they got to deal with the trolls, man. You know, like sometimes the trolls, get the best of them, man. So yeah, you're right, man. You got to develop a callous skin to be in, whether if it's dealing with business or in, the social media world, you got to have tough skin, man, because people will, talk trash, and hey, man, it's a part of life, you got to be able to handle rejection, man, and be able to move forward. My next question for you is, what are your thoughts on Trump? Do you think Trump is handling things, on point in America? And if so, give me a perspective on that.
So I voted for Donald Trump, but I look at it this way. There have been some things about his presidency I've liked, and some things that I have not. One of the things I think that Trump has been able, one of the problems I think with Donald Trump is when you say, I support him, from that point forward, people go, okay, I'm either all for you or I'm all against you, right? Because he has it's such a polarizing name to it and how people feel. So I'll take some policies that Trump has instituted, some things that I like or don't like. Um, First of all, I think that what's happening overseas right now, I think is a big mistake. And here's the reason why. Not from simply a is it right or wrong standpoint. It's because the American people were promised something that is not coming true. We were promised from that administration that things would end quickly. This is going to be an in and out type thing. Now we're months later and we have a war that continues to spread. And I believe that when I see that, the people that are hurt the most are people that are trying to get by day. An individual that has to drive 50 miles to work and back is now spending hundreds of dollars more almost overnight in gas. And they're just trying to make ends meet right now. That frustrates me as an American because as much as I do like what Donald Trump is trying to do, his policy, I think what the goal is the right goal. I also am smart enough, and I think I'm not blinded enough to look at it and go, and at the same time, we have Americans that are being hurt, and most of those Americans couldn't tell you where Iran is on a globe if you gave it to them. All right. And that's not their fault. They're involved with their life and trying to provide for their family. And I'm not saying they shouldn't care about that stuff. But what they immediately care about is trying to pay their bills. And frankly, they've been misled. And that's hurting the average American in the Midwest right now. And I don't like that very much.
Yeah, gas prices is real expensive, man. It's almost $6 a gallon in New Jersey, man. I try to cut back on the driving, man. I wish I could just catch the subway, but I can't because due to my I have to drive around, man. But yeah, driving is getting real expensive. Not only the gas, in the state of New Jersey, man, car insurance is so expensive as well too. So I mean, with inflation, the mortgages is going up. Things is getting tough, man. Like if you have a family, man, it might be, what I mean, you might be dealing with some hard times, man. But
Very much. Very much.
yeah, man, it just sucks because inflation's kicking every ass right now, man. Um, my next
Yep.
question for you is, uh, do you think would it sometime transition into a nuclear war? And if so, let me get your perspective on that.
The thing about nuclear war for me is that I think it's the problem, or not the problem. The reason that it would not happen is because it's mutual destruction once it happens. So, in other words, if you're sitting over in Russia and you launch a nuke and then everybody's dying, you're not getting away with it type of deal. Um, I think much more likely than nations like Russia, United States, China getting involved in a nuclear war. You might see some stuff used on a battlefield that would be close to it. I don't think you're going to see something like we saw with Japan. I think what you're going to see is maybe small nuclear devices used in the field of battle. I don't think you're going to see the large bombs that we all think about when we think about nuclear war. Um, and I think it's just because it's going to be mutual destruction if that's the case. Um, and I don't think anybody wants to die themselves, at least when it comes to developed nations. And they don't want to be the ones that start that thing. So it's kind of keeps everybody in check a little bit right now. So I don't see that happening anytime soon. I could see other things hurting the world much quicker than what I could nuclear war.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that as well too, because if that were to happen, like everybody loses. This would be a
Everybody.
total wasteland. And yeah, and I'm quite sure the leaders, wouldn't want something like that to that extent. But some people will beg to differ, man. Like some say it's a part of the plan. Like this has all been kind of like organized, from the scandemic and all that, and and etc. The oil over in Venezuela as well. So some people would say like, hey man, he's doing a good thing, going out there, trying to apprehend the leader of the cartels out there, but really there was a different motive. Some people believe that.
Sure.
I'm not one of
Sure.
those people. but some people would believe that he went out there just for the oil and all that, man. It just seems like America, kind of got a bad rep, man. But as a proud American, man, like, hey, man, I'm standing by his side, man. You know what I mean? My
Yeah.
next question for you would be, okay, what are your hobbies, man? Other than the podcast and like what are you into when you're not working hard, man? Talk to me.
Oh man, I'm my biggest guilty pleasure is these YouTube channels where people get arrested and they do like the play by play of them getting pulled over on the side of the road, or like the 20-minute like ordeal where they're talking about like, you know, on October 24th, 2024, some Jones got pulled over on the side of the road and it turned into a massive drug bust. Here's the story. And then like somebody rolls through like all this different stuff and police cam body footage. Man, I'm addicted to like those shows with police cam body footage and watching people screw up their lives on just a traffic stop. So if I'm sitting in bed, I'm streaming YouTube to watch one of these 10 different channels that has all of this footage on there. That's like my little guilty pleasure. I go to the gym when I'm not doing this and work out and stuff, but other than work, the gym, and my body cam footage videos, that's about all I got right now.
Man, okay, okay. Well, one of my hobbies, man, when I was younger, I used to like to ride dirt bikes, man. That was my thing, Go riding all day
Nice.
and all night, man, as a youngin'. When you have no type of responsibilities, man, that was
Oh,
that was my guilty pleasure as a youngin'.
love it.
Um my next question for you would be what's your thoughts on uh what's your thoughts on like social media? Like, do you think it's for the better of society, or do you think it's there's a negative ripple effect when it comes to dealing with all these social media platforms?
100% net negative, 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 negative. And I make all my money on social media. Like that's what I do for a living. It's help people on social media, whether it be businesses or individuals. And for me, it's not even a close comparison. It's a net negative for society and for people. There is zero doubt that in 100 years, they will look back at this time and begin to understand the addictive nature of social media and what it has done to our minds, what it has done to our ability to dissect reality away from fiction. Um, it's all intermixed because of quote social media. There's nothing social about it. I can tell you that. I mean, when's the last time someone that you cared about that you said, I got to DM my best friend right now? You don't think that way. You're going to give them a call, give them a text. There's nothing it's inherently social about it. If you could also, you could make it a point that it's more antisocial than it is social. It's more about class hierarchy. It's more about showing that you're something different than other people. It's about pattern interruption. You could even say it's more about a dopamine hit. There are so many things that social media is, but I do not see any positives coming out of it at all. I would be all about the government restricting social media use to minors. Not for adults, do whatever you want to do, but for a lot of minors that are out there that are abusing social media for 8 to 10 hours a day, it is just not going to be it's not a good start to their life, and it surely is going to be an addiction.
Man, I agree with you on that. Now, my next question for you is, I know you deal with a lot of blue collar workers. Like, how often do they vent to you about like dealing with depression and hard times when they're dealing with life as a blue collar worker in the United States? Like, do you get that a lot?
Every day, um, at some level. Today I had a conversation with a gentleman just this morning, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, running a restoration company out of there. And the guy was upset about something. And afterwards, I just kind of said, "Hey, man, let's talk about this. Is it really about the results or is it about the money? It's about the money. All right, why?" And then you start going into it. Well, I didn't have this guy pay me, and this insurance company's dragging its feet, and I finished this job, and he only gave me a partial payment. And then you start to notice these guys starting. I'm like, man, how you feeling about this? Man, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I was like, "Is that why you're really upset right now?" "Yeah, that's why I'm upset." "Okay, I got that. I get that side." It's all you had to do is just tell me that. And I see these guys every day. I talk to them, and I can tell you right now that so many of them are trying very hard. Um, and so many feel like they're in a place where they, no matter how hard they try, they can't win. The deck is stacked against them, and the depression that I see every day in these people is so real. The pain that they feel is so real. Um, and for many of them, that ends up in drugs and alcohol. And I've been involved in this industry and done enough of it myself to where I understand that pain. Um, but to pretend that it's not there for just not only blue collar, but for small business owners would be naive. And that's another thing I wish that small business owners or young people knew. It's okay to struggle. It doesn't mean that your life is less valuable or that you need antidepressants. You're just struggling, and we all are there in some level. We all are struggling with something. And I've said before, to be honest with you, that the most profound prayer that you can have for another person is that they win the battle today they tell nobody about. And to me, that is the most powerful thing. And I see that in a lot of blue collar workers that they are struggling inside. And I'm trying to help them to win this battle inside they tell no one about. And it's not just me, it's a lot of people trying to help one another, but it's definitely there.
Yeah, I mean, as a business owner, that's one of the negative things, man. Sometimes dealing with a contract, your client may swindle you out of your money. Sometimes they may take time to pay you, and they do that deliberately. Sometimes you get the partial payment, you don't get the rest of the payment. Now you got to spend a whole to get your money. And by you doing that, you're gonna lose the value of the lump sum money that you're supposed to get. These are the scary things that as an entrepreneur has to face when dealing with salty clients, man, because not all clients is going to be the best. Emotional roller coaster, man. You don't know when's the next check come in from that particular contract, and you got an overhead to take care of, and you got bills for yourselves. So first you got to take care of your overhead, and then make sure everything's set in place for you to pay yourself. Because if it's not done correctly, sometimes you can't pay yourself, man. If you got employees, you gotta pay your employees first, man. It's tough, man. Especially nowadays with this crazy economy, man. Like people's going through it, man. Especially if they got big families. My next question, and if so, like, what religion do you subscribe to?
Yeah, religion, that's an interesting one. Um, I well, interesting. I believe this, that where I stand is that when I die, I'm going to go before somebody who's going to judge me. If that's going to be the case, then I believe that whatever God that is will more than likely care about how I treated other people and what I did with my life and the way I made other people feel. And I kept my word as a person. I did the right thing in life than what or who I worshiped. I believe that we have such a simplistic look at religion that even for me to sit there and go, you're wrong, I'm right, I'm wrong, whatever else, I think is very simplistic. And so I'm going to go with do the right thing the best that I can, treat people right, keep my word. And when there is a God or a person or an entity that has to judge me, that they care deeply enough more about what I did and who I was as a person than what I worshiped. Because if there was a God that's out there, that is the God that I would prefer to worship who cared more about that.
man, I could, man, I feel you on that. Um, my next question for you is like, what's one of your favorite biblical characters within the scriptures? Like, do you relate to any of those biblical characters within the scriptures? And if so, give me your breakdown. Talk to me.
Yep. Yeah, I'd like to be more like Job, in my opinion, if I could break one down. I mean, you got a guy, Job, who went through a lot of crap. And he's the typical story to which much is given, much is expected. Um, and I think that when you have somebody who is you, whether I believe everything in the Bible or not, what I can appreciate about the story is somebody that was so purposeful in what they wanted and so resolute in their goal and so they believed so deeply in what they were chasing and who they were and their God that it's very difficult not to, I don't know, not to aspire to be that. I mean, I want to have that kind of conviction that that man had. Um, I mean, he had all the stuff in the world. All of it is taken away. Everybody's like, "Why do you continue to worship this God?" And he continues to say, "Man, I don't know why you all even questioning me about this." Um, and to me, man, that's a real down guy. That's a guy I want to be my best friend right there. Um, and I think that if I could be anything, I'd aspire to be like him.
Yeah, man, I totally agree with you, man. He definitely had a steadfast spirit to serve the Most High. His three friends, they ridiculed him. They told him
Yeah,
like he had to do something wrong because
yeah,
throughout the struggles he was going through, his wife was cursing God. She was like, "Yo, how can you still believe in this God?" But he was just like, "Yo, he still believed it and became a a faithful servant, And the crazy part is, man, the light bringer. I don't know if you know who that is, but the light bringer came to the Most High, was like, "Yo, listen, you got a hedge over Joe's head, man." No, 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 no. How that conversation came up, he was like, because I guess he was on the prowl looking for somebody, right? And he was like, yeah, man, I need to get one of your Christians or whatever, right? Well, not
mhm,
Christian, because the word Christian wasn't invented back then, but he was looking for one of God's servants or whatever. And then the Most High was like, "Yo, have you considered my servant Job?" He's like, "Yeah, but you got your head over his head. He ain't gonna serve you if you still have that heads over his head." And the Most High was like, "I bet it's a bet." So
yep,
that's how that came about. And sometimes, man, I read that story, I'm like, yo, it's just like it's amazing to me how cosmic beings could discuss about a man like that, man. I mean, oh, it's tough, man. Yo, Joe went through a
yeah,
lot, man, and he was definitely an incredible biblical character. Definitely, when you read that story, yo, you get inspired, man, to
yeah,
remain faithful, man. Some people, man, they
absolutely.
they lose a girl, they lose some money, man. They stop believing, man, quick. I guess only the strong survive, right?
Yeah, the strong and the people that are willing to
My
stick in
next
it
question for you
longer than
is,
good.
yo, my next question for you is, I don't know, man. I feel like I get a biker vibe from you, man. Do you ride like Harleys and stuff like that? And if so, like, because riding is very therapeutic, man. Like,
Yeah,
it feels good when you ride, man. So I want to know if you still ride, man. Talk to me.
no, I do not ride. My guilty thing on the side right there would be classic cars. I now if you give me a 67, 66 Chevelle, I can get behind that right there. Um, and so my guilty pleasure, if you will, would be fixing up those cars. I think that there's a beautiful time between about the mid 60s and early 70s of big block 454s. I mean, like just a good time for muscle cars right there. And I don't know. I guess I have a little bit of nostalgia for that. Not bikes. Muscle cars would definitely be my thing. The old school muscle cars from the mid 60s to early 70s, I think, have a third nostalgia. My father and I used to fix them up at times. And so I think I've got an affinity for those.
Okay. That's cool. Since you're into cars, like, what are your thoughts on the whole car market changing in 2027? It seems like you're gonna have to pay for prescriptions. The quality gas is gonna plummet as well. So I want to get your perspective on that.
Well, I think that what you're going to find is that people right now are looking for, I think there are going to be less cars that are going to be purchased in 2026 and 2027 because I think that most people are not able to make the payments anymore. Americans are leveraged very hard right now. And when you talk about going and purchasing a new vehicle that's $70,000, it's going to be more and more difficult for the financing to continue to happen. How much the financing has to break somewhere, and I think we're there, where the average American is leveraged too much. They're making minimum payments right now, getting by week to week, maybe every other week to every other week. Um, and yes, maybe their lease is up on their vehicle. Are they going to be able to purchase a new lease, or do they have to stick with that older vehicle? I think you're going to find they're going to stick with the older vehicle more and more in 26 and 27. And so you're going to see these continue to plummet. Not because cars are not better or people don't want a new car, but rather because they just simply don't have the financing available to continue this model that America is doing right now.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's definitely like the car market is at its worst now. Like there's this lady was complaining about she's like she works at a car dealership for Mercedes, and she noticed that people would try to like bury their old car note to purchase a new vehicle. She was like, "I can't, you can't afford this. I can't refinance this vehicle for you because you haven't paid a certain dollar amount." And she's noticing that there's a large scale of people not be able to afford these vehicles, especially a Mercedes Benz. I mean, getting the oil tin on a Mercedes Benz is like damn near $300, man, and that's just for
Mhm.
oil change. We're not talking about
Yep.
doing brakes and etc. So these vehicles are not only expensive, but to keep up with the maintenance of that vehicle is very expensive as well. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I totally agree with you, man. This whole car market is getting ready. It's getting ready to collapse, man.
I hear you. I hear you.
Well, that's all I got for you, man. Yo,
I
any
love it.
last words for the people before we go?
Oh, man, I appreciate the conversation today. Thanks for reaching out on Instagram and stuff. I appreciate you following over there. And I really do, man. I appreciate the nice conversation from you. And hopefully I'll hear from you again on IG and stuff. Keep in contact and good luck with the show here. And if there's ever anything that I can do, man, I'm a DM away from you, brother. Okay.
Okay, man. I appreciate that, man. Yo, it's your boy Rush, aka Rua Mundo. This interview's officially over. Seek wisdom, practice humility, and those remain sucker free. You heard? I'm out. One. Patrick, thank you so much for coming through, man.
Thanks, brother. I
I
appreciate it, man. Thanks for the conversation.
appreciate you, brother.
Later now.
Take care.
Take care.
All right, later.